However, it isn't actually just that simple. I thought you said it was simple. I thought you said hardware hacking was simple. Hi friends, welcome back to the channel. I'm really trying to hold back a yawn right now. I'm just really tired. If you're new here, my name's Ash, I'm 27, I'm a cybersecurity enthusiast, and on this channel, we play Capture the Flags, we do tryhackme walkthroughs, and we learn together on our way to cybersecurity professionalism, whatever that means. On today's video, we're going over day 19 of Advent of Cyber, tryhackme's current event, and if you need any other information like playlists, timestamps, links, you can find them down below. All right, let's go. So I'm on tryhackme, I've loaded up task 24, that's day 19, hardware hacking. I am so nervous, I've never done any hardware hacking. So I've booted the machine. We have the wonderful John Hammond's walkthrough video, so definitely just close my video, go watch him. So there was a hardware implant discovered, a web camera attached to a microprocessor and another chip. Somebody was planning something malicious. All right, so we're gonna understand what this implant was trying to do. We're gonna deal with the microprocessor and the webcam for our future tasks. So for now, let's cover over what the other chip is being used for. So we're gonna be looking at how data is sent via electrical wires in low-level hardware. Oh my goodness, I've always wanted to do hardware. This is nuts. Hardware communication protocols, how to analyze hardware communication protocols, reading USART, data from the logic capture. First section, we have Welcome to the Matrix. So hardware hacking is often shrouded in mystery and seen as a super complex topic. That's how I view it. While there is a lot of in-depth complex hardware hacking components, getting our feet wet is actually pretty simple. Computers today are incredibly powerful. This allows them to build additional features and safety measures into their communication protocols to ensure that messages are transmitted reliably. Think about the Transmission Control Protocol (TCP), which has multiple redundancies in place. It even sends 3 full packets just to start its communication. In the world of microchips, we often don't have this luxury. To make sure our communication protocols are efficient as possible, we need to keep them as simple as possible. To do that, we need to enter the world of zeros and ones, binary. This then begs the question, how does hardware take electricity and generate signals? In this task, we will focus on digital communication. For hardware communication, we use a device called a logic analyzer to analyze the signals. This device can be connected to the actual electrical wires that are used for communication between 2 devices. That will capture and interpret the signals being sent. In this task, we will use a logic analyzer to determine the communication between 2 devices in the rogue implant. This is crazy. I can't believe we can do this all virtually. We don't actually need anything physical, because that's something I've always thought about hardware hacking. I'm like, I'll do hardware hacking once I'm nailed all this I don't know, basics and fundamentals and had a few years up my sleeves, we'll worry about hardware hacking. I don't know, this is cool. Next up, the electrical heartbeat. Back to our question, if we have electricity, how can we generate a digital signal? The approach most hardware components take is to simply turn the power on and off. If the power is on, we are transmitting a digital 1. If the power is off, we are transmitting a digital 0. We call these ones and zeros bits. To perform a communication, we simply turn the power on and off in a specific sequence to transmit a bunch of zeros and ones. If we send 8 bits, we are sending a signal byte. We have just performed a digital hardware communication. These are the wonderful squiggly lines you would see on a logic analyzer. So this is a screenshot of our logic analyzer. Just super simple, totally makes sense, super easy, just some channels, just some lines, nothing complicated, super easy. Sarcasm. We can transmit text data by using the ASCII table. Sending the binary representation of each character, we can transmit data. However, it isn't actually just that simple. I thought you said it was simple. I thought you said hardware hacking was simple. If we wanted 0 effort in our communication, we would need an electrical wire for each 0 or 1 that we wanted to transmit. Considering that a single character is 1 byte of data, thus 8 electrical wires, this can become a mess of wires really fast. To make this more efficient, we need to use fewer wires and have both hardware chips agree to a specific digital protocol and configuration that will be used to transmit data. Let's look at some of the most common protocols and how they work to send data still while reducing the number of wires we need. USART or USART or USART. So Universal Synchronous / Asynchronous Receiver Transmitter Communication. Just rolls off the tongue. Or it is better known serial communication. It's a protocol that uses 2 wires. So one wire is used to transmit data from device A to B, and the other wire is used to receive data on device A from device B. In essence, we can connect the transmit port from one device to receive port from the other device and vice versa. What is interesting about the protocol is that there is no clock line that synchronizes the communication of the devices. Without a clock, the devices have to agree to the configuration of communication, such as the following: communication speed, bits per transmission, stop and start bits, parity bits. So communication speed, this is also called the baud rate or bit rate, and dictates how fast bytes of data can be sent. Agreeing to a specific rate tells each device how fast it should sample the data to get accurate communication. While there are fixed standards for baud rates, devices can choose to use any other rate as long as both devices support it. So bits per transmission, this is normally set to 8 bits, which makes a byte, but it can be configured to something else such as 16 bits. Stop-start bits. Since there's no clock, one device has to send a signal to the other device before it can send or end a data transmission. The configuration of the start and stop bits dictate how this is done. Parity bits. Since there can be errors in the communication, parity bits can be used to detect and correct such errors in the transmission. Ooh, we're really in the weeds now, aren't we? This stuff is complicated. Once the 2 devices agree on the configuration of serial lines, they can now communicate with each other. A signal transmission is shown in the diagram below on how the ASCII characters of S would be transmitted. So we have transmitting for TX, receiving for RX, so device A to device B. We have an idle line, we have a start bit, which is not included in the byte. We have the data bits 0 to 7 being our 8 bits or 1 byte. So 0 and 1 are up, 2 and 3 are down for 0, so on and so forth. We have our ASCII reference 0x53, and that is on the ASCII table. So if we look at the ASCII table here, we've got the hexadecimal of 53 is equal to S. So it's either 123 or in HTML, it's all equal to S in the ASCII table. So there are a couple of caveats. However, the devices don't really have a way to determine if the other device is ready for communication. To solve this, some USART connections will use 2 additional lines called clear to send CTS and request to send RTS to communicate to the other device whether it is ready to receive or ready to transmit. Furthermore, to agree upon what voltage level is a binary 1 or 0, a third wire called the ground wire is required to allow the device to have the same voltage reference. However, despite all of this, USART is an incredibly popular protocol in microprocessors due to its simplicity. Is it simple? I guess once we start understanding more about this, we'll probably look back and go, yeah, this is very simple. Right now, not so much. So next we have SPI, Serial Peripheral Interface. SPI, communication protocol, is mainly used for communication between microprocessors and small peripherals such as a sensor or an SD card, or a webcam, maybe? While USART communication has the clock built into the TX and RX lines, SPI uses a separate clock wire, separating the clock, SCK, from the data, DATA. Why does data need an acronym? Oh, is that just, okay, in the case of SPI, it's just data, clock. All right. Lines allows for synchronous communication, which is faster and more reliable. So the trade-off is adding an additional wire, but we gain a speed and reliability boost. An example of the same S being transmitted using SPI is shown below. So we have our 2 wires, clock and data, while clock is just sending, I guess, the intervals, and data is sending the same as USART was before, just over 2 wires. So the clock line tells the receiving device device exactly when it needs to read the data line. Two-way communication is also possible, but quite a bit more complex than serial communication. Essentially, one of the devices is labeled the controller. This is the only device that is allowed to send clock signals. All other devices become secondary devices that follow the controller's clock signal to transmit data back. If two-way communication is used, instead of having a single data line, two lines are used, namely peripheral in, controller out. Is that where Pico CTF comes from? Which means communication is sent from the controller and peripheral out, control in per key, which means communication is sent from the secondary device back to the controller. Using this, the controller sends a clock signal and a command out to the device using the Pico line. Keeping the clock signal, the controller receives data back on the Pico line as shown in the diagram. Okay, so getting a little bit more complex. So our clock for the controller is showing the same. We have the Pico in and we have the Pico out. Oh, all right, this is starting to get real weedy. This is starting to get a bit more fuzzy for me. Oh gosh, it is just getting more. Oh, please help. Okay, there is one additional change that can be made. While there can only be one controller, there can be multiple secondary devices. To save wires and ports, all devices can use the same SCK, Pico, and Pokey lines. A fourth wire called the chip select, CS wire, is used to distinguish the device that the communication is meant for. The controller can use the line to indicate to the specified device that it wants to communicate it to, as shown in the diagram below. This is going to take a few hardware hacking rooms for me to understand what the hell is going on. So SPI communication is a fair bit more complex than USART, if you say so. But having a dedicated clock line increases the speed at which we can communicate and improves reliability. Next up, we've got I2C. So the integrated circuit communication protocol was created to deal with the drawback from USART and SPI communication protocols. Because USART is asynchronous and has the clock built into the transmit and receives lines, devices have to agree ahead of time on the configuration of communication. Furthermore, speeds are reduced to ensure communication remains reliable. On the other hand, while SPI is faster and more reliable, it requires many more wires for communication, and every single additional peripheral requires one more chip select wire. I2C attempts to solve these problems. Similar to USART, I2C only makes use of two lines for communication. Okay, this is good. I could slightly understand USART. I2C uses a serial data SDA line and a serial clock CSL line for communication. However, instead of using a chip select wire to determine which peripheral is being communicated to, I2C uses an address signal that is sent on the SDA wire. This address tells all controllers and peripherals which device is trying to communicate and to which device it is trying to communicate to. Once the signal is sent, a data signal can be used to send the actual communication. To notify other controllers and peripherals that communication is taking place and prevent these devices from talking over each other, a start and stop signal is used. Each device can monitor these start and stop signals to determine if the lines are busy with communication. An example of such a data transmission is shown. Okay, this one doesn't have colors. Okay, so we have our 7 address bits, so not exactly a byte. And then here's the actual information. So it sends this first and then it sends that. I know I just read all that and this is visualizing that. It is just not connecting in my brain. All right, since an external clock line is used, a communication is still faster and more reliable than USART. And while it is slightly slower than SPI, the use of the address signal means up to 1008 devices can be connected to the same two lines and will be able to communicate. Now that we can understand the basics of hardware communication protocols, we can look to analyze the logic of that rogue implant. Right, probing the logic. After sending this rogue implant to the forensic lab for analysis, the following circuit diagram is uncovered. Based on the diagram, it seems like there is a microprocessor that is connected to an ESP32 chip. Okay, I'm not sure which one is which. Doing some research, we can see that the ESP32 chip allows microprocessors to communicate over Wi-Fi and mobile networks. I'm going to say the one on the right is this chip that's connected to this microprocessor. Could be the other way around. That's just what I'm thinking. So whatever this implant was doing, it was definitely communicating with someone else. If we can intercept the communication between the microprocessor and the ESP32 chip, we would be able to see what commands and information are being sent. It seems like the perfect opportunity for our red and blue team to team up. So we realize that these chips probably use digital communications that can be intercepted with a logic analyzer. Looking at the wires between the chips, we can see a black wire connected to a pin called the ground, GND, and a red wire connected to a pin called the VIN. The VIN pin serves the same purpose as a barrel jack. So voltage. From experience, that this would be the ground and voltage. Right, could have just kept reading. Voltage in wires, respectively, meaning these wires are used to provide power to the chip. That then leaves the green and purple wires that would be used for data transmit. Seeing that they are connected to the RX0 and TX0, transmit and receive. It's all coming together. So we can deduce that this refers to the transmit and receive lines of USART communication. Hence, we are pretty sure that the protocol used for the communication is USART. Armed with this information, the elves connect the probes of the logic analyzer to the green and purple wires before powering on the implement. So we're going to connect the probes of the logic analyzer to the green and purple wires before powering on the implant. Immediately, super fast signals are seen on the analyzer. So the elves create a logic data dump from the signals, and McSkitty is asking you to investigate what is actually being transmitted. Next up, we've got analyzing the logic. So in order to analyze the logic data dump, we will need to use a logic analyzer tool called Sali. Yeah, no idea how to say that. Start the machine, if we haven't already done, which we have, which will open the in-app browser Windows machine, will be required tools, blah, blah, blah. Once the machine is loaded on the desktop, double click the Logic 2 application. Whew, all right, let's do it. Cool, okay, so we have the Logic 2 link here. Awesome, then we're gonna import our Santa file. So go File, Open Capture, navigate to the desktop, double click the file. You can ignore the calibration error pop-up. Once loaded, you should be able to see the captures. If you hold left control and use your mouse wheel to zoom out a bit, or you can click the view X zoom out, you should be able to see the digital signals. Okay, so there's our device calibration error. So we'll ignore that. Welcome. So we'll hit control and we'll just drag, use the mouse wheel to zoom out. Okay, there is our information. We have a scroll bar here. We can go to the start. So we've got D0 and D1 refer to the digital channels of the two lines that we probed, D0, D1. So this is our top. A0 and A1 refer to the analog data from the probers. Hover your mouse over the first thick line on D1. All right, where's that thick boy? And use your left control and the mouse wheel to zoom in again. Oh, we can just select device settings to remove that. Just have a bit more space to work with. So what's very interesting from this screen is that you can see how the analog voltage data corresponds to the digital signature. Looking at A1 versus D1, you can see that there are slight breaks in the analog digital signal. Is that a break? Where there's sort of dips that can be corrected in the digital channel. Now that we can see the digital signal data, we can look to use a logic analyzer to read the contents of the data. Click the analyzer tab on the right. That's the 1F analyzer. Since we know the protocol is USART, let's look to configure an async serial analyzer for both channel 1 and 0. Let's configure channel 1's analyzer first. If we were true hardware reverse engineers, we would first have to figure out how the rate at which data is being transmitted, as well as the specific configuration such as parity bytes and frames. However, to keep this simple, Forensic Elf has already discovered this for you. Alter your configuration to match the following and click Save. So we select Async Serial, and then we'll go Channel 1, 4800, 8 bits, 1 stop bit, nope, least, non-interval, normal, Once saved, we can see that the data is being analyzed. Yes, it is. Click the little terminal icon, and we can actually read the data being transmitted. Okay, there is the terminal. We we see the initialization sequence of the serial line and the 3 lines of data being sent. Okay, acknowledgement, reboot, CMD X 9600. This doesn't yet mean anything since we are only seeing one side of the data. In order to see the other messages, we need to add another analyzer to channel 0. Click the plus icon to add another async serial analyzer. Plus async serial with the same configuration except for channel 0. This will be channel 0. We'll have 48,000. The rest is the same. Once added, click the trash icon. Ooh, that got some stuff. At the bottom right to remove all terminal data. Oh, there we go. Clear terminal. Once done, click on the 3 dots next to each analyzer and select restart on both. So the first one, restart. Second one. Your terminal should now look something like this. Oh, yes, it does. Hello command. Please send security string. Security string accepted. Please specify new baud rate. New baud rate. All right. Now we are starting to piece together the information. It seems like the microprocessor is establishing a session with the ESP32 device to allow communication to the control server. We can now see the full discussion between the 2 devices. The processor asks the ESP32 to reboot its connection to the control server. The ESP32 is happy to oblige, but requests a security code to be sent to allow connection to the control server. Once the security code has been transmitted, the ESP32 allows the microprocessor to negotiate a new baud rate, I don't know how to say it, to be used for the communication. Interestingly, once this new rate is accepted, we cannot read the rest of the output. Oh, okay, so that's what that is. Do we need is that hex or something? However, since we intercepted the baud rate, we can simply edit our channel 0 analyzer to a new baud rate to read the rest of the communication that was sent. Go make this change to get your flag. I'm going to come back to that. I'm just going to let that sit in the back of my brain and we'll go through the other task. This is excellent progress. We were able to read the initial communication between these 2 devices that were used to establish a connection to the control server. Now that we have this information, we can keep monitoring the lines and analyzing the logic to see any messages that are sent. We are one step closer to knowing who is responsible for this rogue implant. Ooh, alrighty. Let's go through the questions and then we'll sort of finish up with that flag task right at the end there. So first up, what device can be used to probe the signals being sent on electric wires between 2 devices? So this was the logic analyzer, and that's what we're using, if I can spell correctly. So next up, USART is faster than SPI for communication. Yay or nay? Off the top of my head, yay. So USART was incredibly popular for its simplicity. Actually, no, I don't think that is the case. SPI communication is a fair bit more complex, but dedicated arrival clock increases the speed. So SPI is faster. Nay. USART communication uses fewer wires than SPI. Now, as we saw in that diagram, that is the case. So that is a yay. USART is faster than I2C for communication. I think SPI was faster than I2C. Let's go back over. So communication is still faster and more reliable than USART, but slightly slower than SPI. That's right. So USART is faster. I2C uses more wires than SPI for communication. No, I2C only used 1. No, sorry, only used 2. And SPI used, but then there was this. Okay, was this the default SPI just using 2? So would that be no? So no, it doesn't use more, it uses the same. So SPI is faster than I2C for communication. Yes, if we remember, it is slightly faster. So what is the maximum number of devices that can be connected by a single pair of I2C lines? Oh, I actually remember this, 1008. That stuck out in my brain because I was like, oh, that's a random number. I'm sure that there's mathematically a valid reason. But next up, what is the new baud rate that is negotiated between the microprocessor and the ESP32 chip? So that's what we put into the async serial, and that was 48. I guess 9600 is what it then did. Oh, I'm not totally sure. On that one. Last up, what is the flag that is transmitted once the new baud rate was accepted? All right, so this is sort of the last area for us. to get our flag. And let's just go over this again. Right, so we need to edit our channel 0 analyzer with the new baud rate. So our new baud rate is 9600. So if we go up and edit our channel 0 and we change this to 9600, easy there. And then we hit save, and there it is. We've got our code. Hacking hardware is fun. Awesome. Well, I'm super proud of myself for starting hardware hacking. This was a sick room. Thank you, John Hammond and the tryhackme team. So thank you for watching. It's awesome that you've come through this journey with me, so I appreciate you. Feel free to like, to show some love. Subscribe if you haven't. Leave a comment. I'd appreciate the support. Comments actually mean a lot to me. I didn't think they would, but they do. So I'm gonna let YouTube recommend a video for you from my channel while also showing a playlist to you for the other videos in this series. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video. I'm nearly there. I've nearly done all the days that are available. I'm gonna continue. Okay, bye. Back to work.